สดีค่ะสวัสดีทุกท่านนะคะดิฉันปามี่ค่ะสินิดาเพชรวิรกุลนะคะพิธีกรด้านเศรษฐกิจจาก TNN นะคะวันนี้มีความยินดีต้อนรับทุกท่านเข้าสู่ GC Circular Living Symposium 2022นะคะ Together to Net Zero กับเวทีย่อยในวันนี้เป็นเซสชั่นที่น่าสนใจมากๆ
It's a very interesting session on the green recovery, how sustainable future shape the future of the business. And let's see how sustainable finance will be like for this new era. But more importantly, we will integrate the green finance in our business process. And if you want to do so, what are the challenges, what are the pain points, and what are the possibilities in closing these gaps? Today we'll be sharing with you from many perspectives, from the perspective of the regulator like the Bank of Thailand and SEC who help driving the business conduct in regards of ESG and sustainability from behind the scene. And we also have representative from the financial institution and also our host from GC. We will learn from HSBC, GC, and also the Ayutthaya Bank. And if you have any question, please feel free to scan the QR code appearing on the screen and submit your question using the QR code. And today we also have live session from PTTGC's YouTube and the Standard. And please join us in the comment session. We open for question and please join us in today's discussion and how we could follow the global trend in driving sustainable growth and how we connect the business to our clients and consumer through the point of view of the green lens. Today we are honored by experts on the stage, and today we have Dr. Sarapon Tuliyasathian, the Senior Executive Vice President from the Head of Corporate Strategy Division and Head of Sustainable Market Development Division from the Stock Exchange of Thailand. Please welcome Dr. Sarapon. And then we also have Pathalada Sanga Sang, Executive Vice President, Finance and Accounting, PTT Global Chemical or PTTGC. And then we have Ronadong Mumnon, the Deputy Governor of Financial Institution Stability, Bank of Thailand. Then we have Grisada Phajaran, Head of Wholesale Banking, HSBC Thailand. And also Mr. Prakop Piencharan, the Head of Corporate Investment Banking Group and Acting Head of Investment Banking Division from the Commercial Bank of Krungศรี Ayutthaya or Bank of Ayutthaya PCL. Good afternoon once again, and it is a pleasure to have experts like you joining us on the screen. We also have some big issues for you to tackle with, starting with the framework and the stock market of Thailand and HSBC, Bank of Thailand. We would love to hear from you your perspective and what is the global trend and how shall we take action in the green finance. And last topic will be the way forward. Is there anything you would like to help us complete the picture with some final thoughts? But let me start with the framework and sustainable finance from the perspective of the Bank of Thailand. So what do you think about this, sir? Hello, good morning and good afternoon. And it's a pleasure for me to be invited by PTTGC for today's session. And because this is such a very important topic, and it is a pleasure to be here with the panel session. And for the business. But we are all playing a very important part for the global situation. And today, now we know that who can help us lead the change, because we know that all the changes actually partly come from our economic activity and investment. And investment has become very important unless there will be more issue with the economy. Today we start seeing the mega trend from the world. We want to see a greener world, and we want to see a more sustainable world and better environment. So we have seen many commitments, and most importantly, we want to see a better answer in regards of the mechanism or CBAM because we believe that from now on, if we cannot make our business greener, the EU will try to charge you more tax by 2070. But that is not the biggest pressure. The biggest pressure actually comes from the investor and the consumer that demands business to be more green and to become more environment friendly. And Thailand has to follow the trend as well, because this is not just because of the publicity, but it is about our own sustainability. On behalf of the Bank of Thailand, we are part of the mechanism to help setting the directions to make the world greener. And we see that there are certain changes that must be done. And I know that it is not just us. We know that there are other players like investors, business, and private sectors. For big companies, for example, I believe that one of the biggest challenge is to find out more what to do in order to make it more sustainable. Unless we cannot raise so much fund from overseas, and the cost will only be getting higher and higher. And this has become a condition, because from the investment point of view, if we don't know if you are becoming greener, your cost will be much higher, and there will be less investment for many companies. And that has become one of the regulations and also direction from the financial institution and regulator. And I believe that our expert from HSBC will cover that. But we will see from the overseas perspective, they know that there are certain commitments to fulfill, such as to become net zero in 2050. And that means major companies around the world must have strategies and initiatives in order to reduce the burden to the environment. And if you do not do that, it will be harder for you to get funding support. But actually, I am not worried about the larger companies as much as our SMEs. And luckily today we have the PTT Global Chemical, where they have more than 200 companies within their supply chain. And these SMEs also need a guidance from leading companies like PTT Global Chemical in looking for the right solution and the right direction. These SMEs are becoming more aware that they need to disclose their environmental data. They have to follow the larger corporations, and if they don't do that, their business will be quite difficult. As I say, it will be more difficult for them to get access to the fund, and their cost will become much higher automatically. So in summary, it doesn't matter if you are a big company or small companies, part of the supply chain or the supply chain by yourself. Being greener has to be the way forward. Unless we will not be able to serve the partner within the country and overseas, and you will face even more challenges. This has become a very important part for the financial sector. We are a very important part for the industry sector to help them follow this trend and fulfill their duty in the economic system. As the financial arm, our job is to find a way to help these companies overcome the obstacles, which we know that it is not easy. Our country is, I would say, still developing, and in terms of the readiness, we are not as good as developed country. Their infrastructures are much better in place, so for us, we need to think about that carefully. We need to help them find a way to transition from traditional business, which is not as good in terms of environment, to a more environment-friendly business at the right time and at the right cost. There's a demand for change, but change comes with cost. There are certain transition costs that they have to take care of. And on behalf of Bank of Thailand, we are well aware of these transition costs. But the timing and the speed must be proper to help them fulfill their duty as a company. That is actually one of the takeaway for a developing country like Thailand. We still need to find the right balance for the financial aspects. But as I said earlier, we already have the time commitment like 2050 or 2070. And that will be the time constraint that we need to take into account. But regarding the why and the what is what we need to think about today. And we are very lucky that we have 5 experts today from different stakeholders, like from myself and from the Department of Finance, and also from the department like the Stock Exchange of Thailand and even OIC. We have been working together in order to look for a more sustainable finance, which we have announced last year. We came up with Sustainable Finance Initiative for Thailand to set a direction for the business in regards of sustainable finance. And if you have any time, please feel free to stop by our website. We have been trying to promote a better infrastructure for the finance and business and to help you gain access to a more sustainable finance. But as the Bank of Thailand, last Tuesdays we have just released a directional paper, and please feel free to go through our papers. It is available on the website. This is a direction for the sustainable finance under the new perspective or the new financial landscape. This is the paper produced by the Bank of Thailand, and we hope that the financial sector will be part of the key mechanism to help driving the country towards sustainable finance or a greener business. In this paper, you will find more details. Can you step back 1 page, please? You can find 5 key building blocks for sustainable finance, and the first is about the fact that the financial institution need to change the business processes. They need to be more aware. Starting from the tone from the top, the tone from the top must be clear that being greener is important for the company, and then all the financial products must follow the same direction to serve the environment and the business at the same time. So we hope that whenever you launch a new product, your product will also help your business, disregarding your business size, but to help you achieve the financial goal and environmental goal as well. But we also have 4 other building blocks for sustainable finance. For the second building block, this is also another very important building block. You need to be able to clearly identify and categorize your activities, which one is environment friendly and which one is not. And technical term is we so-called taxonomy of your activity. And for developed country, they have certain maturity in this regard, but Thailand, we are not there yet. So it's not very easy for us to start the taxonomy for the business activities in our sector. But luckily, we already come together like this. Private sector, public sector, and also the regulators from the public. We have been working together to look for the way to classify our activities. But meanwhile, we need to start considering 2 key sectors, which are the transportation and the energy. They are a very important contributor to the environmental initiative. We need to start with these 2 sectors first. We need to know which activity is green and which activity is brown. So for the second building block, we want to see the taxonomy, because we want to know which one is environment friendly or not. So we can help you identify the right financial product that will help you with green finance. And the third one is the infrastructure that we need to achieve, which is the database. And not just for the financial institution, but for the business operation to know in regards of the business activities, and you can take those into account. And we also expect transparency for the commitment and the data transparency. So for each of the business has already taken care of, but it's only up to a certain point. But we hope that this data will not be limited to just the listed entity. We want to expand even further than our stock market. And fourth is about the incentive to do this kind of thing. We already have enough reason to do, but More importantly, we also need to have some incentive to help driving the initiative. For example, maybe lower cost or something that help improving the business in terms of the green finance. And that's our fourth building block. And lastly, it is another very building block, which is the people. And we hope that we should be able to offer the right knowledge to the people working in our organizations so they have the right knowledge in greener and more sustainable finance. These are the building blocks that will help supporting our business, especially the SMEs, to get the right suggestion and to help them steer into the right direction. So these are our 5 building blocks in our direction paper. So if you like, please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen. Let me stop here. And thank you so much. So this is for the Bank of Thailand that it starts with the mega trend and the commitment and how to overcome this obstacle. How can we go through this transition period more smoothly and to fit in terms of timing and speed. So through these 5 building blocks or the direction towards sustainability from the Bank of Thailand. And now let us hear from the stock market of Thailand. And there are more than 700 listed entities. So what is your role to help driving the sustainable growth in terms of the Stock Exchange of Thailand? So first of all, thank you for the question and thank you PTTGC that allow us to share our point of view today. We have been working with many of you and the stock market is like the financial market. We are the place where we connect between people who wants to raise funds, which are the entities and the investors. So our job is to help encouraging. We want to help encouraging everyone in the stock market, from the companies to the investor, to take into account the ESG and turn it into action. It's not easy, yes, but there are plenty of opportunities. Like a deputy and the governor say, it is the trend now. It is not something nice to have. It is already a must-have because it has become the global standard. So what is our objective? The objective is first, for the company's side, for on the capital market, how can we help them achieve the willingness to do so? Because they hate when they are being forced, but so we want to make them feel like they are willing to do, and to do so benefits them, not just create a new plan, but we want to see the execution of what we call ESG in practice. What we have been doing at SET along with our companies are, first, we have created our guideline. There are certain things that they need to manage, like plastic waste or other waste. There are many good practices from other countries that they could follow. And we need to share with them the knowledge and provide them training and helping them building the community. There are very similar objectives among different companies. So if they could share best practices with each other, it will make the things easier. And we need to offer them carrots too, not just sticks. We also have competitions for the company to showcase their sustainability initiative. And through that, we have seen best practices from leading companies, and they will be recognized as a role model in ESG. So for the company, first we want them to have the willingness, and that's the first part. On the other hand, for the investor side, the objective is how can we help them switch to a more greener company. When you talk about sustainable finance, people tend to think about ROI first, but rather than talking about return, especially when you talk to Gen Z people or younger generations of people, they normally talk about the fact that they care more about the environment aspect. They will invest in something they are interested in. It's called invest to express. They want to express themselves through their investment choice. And part of that is the environment trend, society, and also transparency, or basically ESG. For an investor, if they want to invest, they need to start by having the right information so they know what they want to invest in. And that's why we need to work with the database. The data will flow from the company who are working in sustainability and how to measure their progress. For example, how many tons of carbon or how many tons of waste or how many electricity you save to show how can you improve the society and how does it reflect in the company's bottom line. Because there are many things that the company can do. It can be good for both, good for the world and good for the company. You have heard about the triple bottom line, right? People, planet, and profit. Those are the triple bottom line. And it will be cascaded down to the report, and they will be working closely with the stock exchange office. We also work with numbers of associations and fundraisers to generate investment metrics based on these data to help people who are interested in investing, from individual investor to the fund manager. They can use these data. We have created an index called Sustainability Index or THSI to be the data. Okay, if you go back, we start by giving incentive and awards for people who are doing very good, and GC is part of the champions. And you are one of the Sustainable Awards winner. And we created investable list based on sustainability. And when the manager get this list, they can turn it into their investment products that allows the investors' money to flow to the company that they care and the company that does well in this aspect. So that's what we do. So once again, in terms of sustainability, yes, there are many opportunities, but what we need to do, like the deputy said, we need to create the ecosystem. I mean, from the company to the investor and also the middleman, especially in terms of data and analysts. And when you talk to the IR and the IR need to talk to the investor, you need to be well aware of this topic and they need to be able to explain it to the investors. Okay, let me stop here for this question. Okay, so those are the roles and the direction. So we want to create the willingness. We want them to be willing to do so, not just being forced to do so. Now let us switch to a global financial institution. And we want to hear what is happening in the global finance, so how the world is working towards ESG in terms of sustainable finance and green finance, and how people are doing at the moment. What is the global practice?
So for HSBC, what we see is that we are also trying to achieve sustainable finance, which you can see that during this 3, 4, 5 years, there has been a lot of growth, there has been a lot of changes. And just as Ronadon and Dr. Sopon has mentioned, we have seen many changes, both in terms of regulations, and also we see that right now there are needs in the market to change the way that we do business to make it more sustainable. For example, in Europe, you can see that as of right now, a lot of rivers have dried up in Europe. So for those big investors, big banks, big funds in Europe and America, or even in Middle East, nowadays when they invest in something or when they issue loans, they will always consider sustainability as one of the key factors. Now for HSBC, a lot of time when we assess the credit, and when we assess the credit and issue approval for the loan, one thing that we always take into consideration is also on sustainability. I would like to show you the slide, which will allow you to understand the market trend right now. Like I said, that during past 3-4 years, especially in 2021, global bond market has changed a lot, and it has grown over 1.1 trillion USD already. And can we fetch the PowerPoint up, please? I'll show you. And so you can see that in 2021, the growth has become exponential. Now in 2022, you can see that year to date in the graph here is until June. It seems like the market starts to stabilize. So towards the first quarter of this year, the investors and also those fundraisers, they are waiting to see the situation of USD, and so the investment is a bit delayed because they would like to wait for USD to be a bit more stable or to see the direction first. And so you can see that the investment is a bit slowed down, but I think for quarter 3 and 4 is going to accelerate a lot actually. And if we look regionally to compare which region issued the highest amount of sustainable loan, I would have to say number 1 would be Middle East, Europe, and Africa, which aligns with the insight that the European Union has very strong policy and they care a lot for sustainability. You can see examples from many countries in Europe. For example, now that in Europe they don't use petrol cars anymore, they would just use EV. And so the consumers' behavior, regulator, policymaker in Europe, they all cooperate together towards sustainability. And now for Asia Pacific, Thailand is one of the countries in Asia Pacific. We have to say that we are a bit behind North America. So you can see number 1 in the graph would be Europe region, and then the second one would be North America, and the third one would be Asia Pacific. Now among Asia Pacific, the country that has the highest volume of sustainability activity would be number 1, Singapore, number 2, Australia, number 3, Hong Kong, and followed by Taiwan. And for the products that we issue, a lot of time it would be sustainable linked loan. And if we compare by sector, the sector that come and raise the highest amount of loan would be utility, especially for renewable energy. Next up would be banks, financial services, because the banks also needs loan for finance to be able to issue loan to others again, and then it would be followed by real estate sector and manufacturing sector. Now if we look at only bond market, can I have the next slide please? If we have a look at the bond market, you see that 2021 is really a big jump, and 2022 is the same, is quite stable. And the hero of the game is again European Union, Africa, and Middle East. And if we have a look at bond market, you see that Asia Pacific side has done better than US side, so we issue more bonds in our region. And if we compare by products within Asia Pacific, the type of bond that we issue would be sustainable linked bonds, which count for 19% of all the bonds issued year to date in June. So you can see that the ratio is quite high. And if we compare by country, you will see that the sustainable bond counts for 54% of the total bond. And next up would be India and China, which has 37% of sustainable bonds. And in terms of development in policy and infrastructure that support sustainable finance, I would like to show you in depth here. First one, of course, China. the biggest country in our region. So we have to say China is the leader in infrastructure and sustainability. They implement green bond standard, just like Ronarong has mentioned. He has explained to us what sustainable bond is and green bond is. And I have to say, actually, the definition of these terms in each country varies. And even the key building blocks in each country varies. And so sustainable data in stocks in China Stock Exchange is now available because we think this is important to be disclosed. And lately, they also issue common ground taxonomy. I have read a directional paper of Bank of Thailand, and I think now we start to have clear picture on what Thailand is heading towards. And I think what SEC and SET is paying attention to is basically these taxonomies. Now for Hong Kong, I think what they are trying to do is they are trying to make themselves become the center of sustainable finance, and all the policies that they launch are to support these motives to become the center of sustainable finance. They're trying to provide information to banks with high standards. And secondly, common ground taxonomy. We need to be able to have the common ground to define what we mean by sustainable. And the asset manager and the banks, they also now have done climate stress testing. I think this is something that PTT is trying to do as well. In Singapore and Hong Kong, they are both trying to become the center of sustainable finance. Actually, I have to say Hong Kong and Singapore are competing against each other on this. And for Singapore, they asked the banks, insurance company, and asset management company to do disclosure of environmental risk and also to do stress testing. However, Singapore is a bit different from Hong Kong side because Singapore side have bond grant team. So for people who would like to issue bond, they will get some subsidization from the government. Okay, thank you so much. We'll come back and ask more from HSBC on your practices and implementation of these ideas. So that was just the first part. So it's so great we get to talk to HSBC, learn about bond and loan market. So that's basically the overview of our framework. Now let's move on to the action part. How can we take effective action? Can you share with us success case, use case of GC? And also green finance, sustainable finance. How do we use these into our finance? Thank you for the question. For today, we are talking about sustainable finance. But before we talk about financing, we have to first ask ourselves, what does our business do? And I have talked to our banker partners, and they say they are always ready to support us. And we both agree that as of right now, we have global warming, we have ecosystem crisis. Everything that we do, we need to always think net zero, and we can't ignore the green economy anymore. And so when we invest on something, we need to always think of green finance. So you see, as of right now, what we need to ask is, yes, we have money. Yes, we can ask the bank to invest with us. But would they have the confidence that we would be able to return them the money? Let's say if I ask you here in this hall, the table, the chairs, the water, everything in this room, it all comes from petrochemical plastic, right? And GC is one of the manufacturer of these items. But if you go outside, you will see that a lot of items at the exhibitions, they are upcycle products. They use a lot of recycled fiber. You can see that we have tables and chairs with really great texture. We have clothing that use upcycled plastic. And we really hope that those products at the exhibition hall would become what the market wants. Because in a way, it is great for the environment. And if we can support this change, then the bank would feel that it's easier to grant loan. Now for GC, I have to say that we have grown our business a lot. You can see from the chart that we are petrochemical manufacturer and we manufacture 14 tons a year. We also use a lot of renewable energy. And as of right now, GC operates all over the world. We have 40 factories in Thailand. We have 42 global operation sites. Just like Puadon has mentioned that we have total 200 companies. We would like to become pilot case or role model for other companies to follow. Because we at GC, we have very strong commitment to become net zero by 2050. You can see this is a huge mission that we need to change and adapt a lot to achieve this mission. But in a way, along this journey, we have become efficacy driven. We use all the resources efficiently because we know that all the resources require money to buy, and we also are aware that everything we do require energy. So we try to think, how can we recycle, upcycle, how can we save the natural resources, and we also have changed our portfolio, investment portfolio. So you can see we have just acquired our next business, 500 million USD, and we have to say thank you to a lot of financial institutions to support us. And we know that we contribute to a lot of carbon contribution in the world, but as of right now, everything has gotten a lot better. And so this is the example of the success cases that we have. And you can see that the business itself would become the role model, and we will be able to issue green loan. And so you see, this is some serious role model. And Europe countries also are interested in these projects. Japan and China are also interested in these projects, green loan. So I think this is a perfect case study for us. And to look long term, I think that to become net zero, we'll have to change our investment portfolio to become more of the low carbon business. And we will also need to invest more in new technologies to capture the carbon dioxide. to make sure that we really can achieve net zero. Perhaps we can turn those materials and recycle them into some petrochemical products. And on the funding, I have to say that when we do whatever business, we need a lot of funding, right? So just now we got to hear from HSBC and Bank of Thailand and also SET. We have heard from them that they are ready to help us. And they have also adapted. That's why they start to have sustainable bond, green bond. So for GC, when we talk about biochemical or bioplastic business, we have improved it along these 10 years. But once we have improved it for such long time, sometimes we start to have question what's next. And would it always keep on making profit like this? And so you see, we have to change the way we think. So back then we used to have the mindset of cost center, but now we are more profit center, and we also start to have new factories like the sugarcane factory, and we are going to have the biggest factory in the world. And capability to make profit at GC, we have to say that we really have a lot of case studies that we can expand our profit further. And so you see, we use everything, green capital, green financing. So today I'm very happy that the investors are here to listen. And in the future, we are going to have more bonds. And after this, we are going to keep on improving the quality of our bonds or our debentures. And we are going to be ahead of the game. We're going to be the key player in the market. And we know that we will be able to have access to quality investors with competitive cost. And people will be able to invest with us in low carbon business so that we'll be able to achieve net zero objectives. Thank you so much for sharing with us on efficiency-driven portfolio that lead us to net zero objectives. I believe that we would not be able to do all of these things without the great leader. May I ask you what are some of the challenges that you face from employee, from clients, or from other partners? What are some of the challenges that you face? How can you make sure that they would agree with you and do what you ask them to? I have to say that GC is in stock exchange in the name of PTTGC, and we agree that this business has the cycles. So sometimes the cycle runs for 1 year or longer than that. It depends on the situation. However, we also try to create balance in our portfolio. And we always think, how can we maintain our competitiveness? We also would like to become good citizens. We try to always take care of our environment and community because we have learned in the past that we cannot just ignore these factors. And so when the performance is not ready, when the market is not ready, we cannot just invest a lot of money into not so ready market, right? And so I think timing is essential. For example, if we would like to invest in a green business, we have to think first when would be the good timing. Because let's say if we think it's going to be ready in 5 years, we also cannot just wait 5 years and then invest one big lump sum in the next 5 years. So we have to invest bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit over time. So we can invest 10%, 20%, 25%. So balancing is very important. And resources allocation is also very important. As of right now, I think a lot of people here, you are also in manufacturing sector, and we have to always maintain competitiveness. Yes, it's very true. So we have to always think of the way to manage our resources, right, and be able to offset other cons, if any. And now, if anyone has any question, please kindly feel free to scan this QR code and type your questions to us. We'll get back to you. So you see that today we really do net zero event, so there's no paper use. You can just scan the QR code and type the questions you'd like to ask to us. And we will give our speaker some time to answer. And now I would like to ask Krungsi and HSBC. For Krungsi, what would be the pain point that you see to drive sustainable finance? What are some of the challenges that you have faced?
คุณปาล์มแล้วก็สวัสดีทุกท่านนะครับขอบคุณแทน
thank you everyone, and also thank you very much GC for inviting me to join this panel. In our point of view, we want to promote green finance too, but we have to start by explaining why the bank has to do this. There are many pressure and many factors from many levels, and when it comes to a bank like us, as we have so many stakeholders like our customers, our loan customer, our bond customers, for example, they believe that the bank should be able to promote sustainable finance through our instruments. And what will we get in return? What will we get? That's the question. Because people want everyone who is our customer or our partner to gain awareness. We want them to have the awareness to improve the business operation, to make the operation more greener or better for the environment. That is the direction. So today, when we talk about sustainable finance, like Grisada said, we might not have a clear understanding yet. So there are so many talks going on. We still need to develop the direction, like today or like with the Bank of Thailand. I have just scanned the QR code that they shown on the screen that Mr. Ronadon said. I have went through the report very quickly while I was on the stage. I think it's a very good idea. There are many building blocks and certain criteria to consider. And now we started to see as a bank what should we do. And when you talk about sustainable finance, not everybody understands sustainable finance in the same way, even in the bank, because everybody tends to have their own interpretation of what it means by sustainability. And we are living in the world of capitalism. When you talk about finance and ESG, the first question we will receive is, what is the return? Just like what you said, sir. And like she said, balancing and timing is very important. And as a new business without any track performance or track record, you need to prove yourselves quite a lot, and we also need to help them to go through the details. And sometimes it is much easier said than done. And the customer always asks, why now? Is it getting cheaper?
เดี๋ยวคุณประกอบ
And if it's cheaper, why now? Maybe you can come back when it's cheaper because the interest rate is surging and there's war, there's price of the products, for example. We always receive this kind of question, but that is an even more reason for us to do sustainable finance. So let me show you a quick slide. Maybe I don't know if I have the slide on the screen. Can you show a diagram, please? We started with the process, and when we talk to the customer, we want to know about their pain points. And the first question is why now? And we need to be able to explain why. We cannot just wait until everything is cheaper or the interest rate will change. We can't wait. We need to convince our customer. So today we are not just talking about EBITDA and EBITDA. We need to show the story. We need to show the customer story, especially ESG story. And we will need to think about the right timing. Okay, let me stop this question at this point. We will come back to more details later. If you already have a project, maybe we can talk about the social capability, especially the repayment ability, unless you are very strong. And for green, that's quite clear. Green is easy. Like PTT has just launched a green bond, and GC, I think we are now undergoing a lot of study, and we are just looking for the right project. And we also have sustainability bond. If we see that we can invest right away, it's much easier financially speaking. There are more details, but we need to measure if it is greenwash or really green. So in order to verify that, we need a third-party verifier. And on the other hand, if we don't have the project at the moment, yes, we can do that, but not every business can really invest in this kind of project directly. So we can say that we can set shared KPI with your companies. Let's say if you want to improve your ESG, and then you can turn it in KPIs, but a KPI must be more robust and ambitious. So it means that one of the pain points is the customer tend to set easy pain points so they could achieve easily. Let's say 2% and 2% next year, but in reality, the target should be stretched with such kind of processes. We will try to focus on 3 keywords: H, I, and S. H, we are going to consider historical years, historical performance. So if we are doing already quite good in the past, we need to set a more serious KPI. And then industry peers. We want to see your industry peers within the country and overseas. We want to know how fast they are in terms of carbon reduction. So we need to be in line with the peers. And third, science-based scenarios. And this is quite difficult because you have to work both finance and engineering teams. How can we calculate, such as things like greenhouse gas emission and how much can we reduce from each project? So it is not just about finance. You need to know some engineering. But if we can do that, you can turn it into a more sustainability-linked loans and bonds. These are the products options. So for loans and bonds, the company could get the money from anywhere, but the KPI will be measured for the next 3 years or 5 years, depending on the loan's tenor. All right, let me pause here. We will come back about more products details a bit later. All right, we will have more time about the product and solution. But that's from the Bank of Ayutthaya. And we are wondering if the international bank like HSBC or other banks think the same. Or would you like to add anything? Yes, I would like to add a few more things about the taxonomy. We need to have a common ground taxonomy. When we do sustainable financing, even in Thailand, to determine whether if it is green or sustainable, it is pretty much based on each bank's interpretation. So let's say in a project, you might say green, I might say brown. It's possible. So to work together in terms of syndication or raising funds, especially for bonds, sometimes we have to make sure that we need to be aligned, that our parameters are aligned. And most importantly, our large size target, our large size clients like GC, if let's say you want to raise funds in overseas markets, you also face another challenge. You need to think about sometimes what we consider green or sustainable in Thailand, it might not work overseas. Like in EU, EU has a much more serious regulations to determine whether it is green or not. So there will be gaps between Thailand and not just Thailand, but many countries, many locations. There are many gaps, especially within ASEAN. We also have a lots of gaps, and we need to develop a what we call ASEAN Common Ground Taxonomy for ASEAN countries. We need to make sure that we are fully aligned, or at least getting closer, so we could really expand the market to overseas. That's one of the things we need to do. And second is disclosure and report. Why? Why is it important? It is important because for green and sustainability, there are certain KPIs and commitments to fulfill. Without any tracking system or reporting system, you can never really tell whether if it is really green or whether if it is really sustainable. And the issues that we are seeing nowadays, maybe you have heard from the news, there are certain investors who have been trying to sue the banks because they are not very happy with some banks, because they claim that the loan or the bond or the assets, originally it was green, but they are not really green. So that's what we call greenwashing. And last thing for this question is, let's talk about SME and MME. These people, how can they get the benefit from doing this kind of sustainable bond, for example? So that's the question about scalability and bankability for the project. Sometimes our clients, I have to say that sometimes if we use the same way to assess the credit, like we normally do, like other commercial bank did, or like the guideline from the Bank of Thailand or other like SEC, for example. Many projects will not even get considered because viability is not there. Financial viability is not there. And maybe the payback period is too long, or maybe the cost is too high. And how can we solve this problem? So for example, at HSBC, to overcome this challenge, one of the solutions we offer is, maybe you have seen in our press release, we and Temasek has already joined hands and set up a fund. And the total amount is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 150 million USD. So what is this fund? This fund is like a kind of catalyst in order to raise even more funds to support these projects. Maybe these projects can be smaller renewable projects, or maybe water quality improvement project, which is quite small and might need a longer payback period, for example. It starts at 150, but we hope that by seeding 150 USD, the seeding will attract more funds from other sources of investors to help driving smaller projects like this and make it and turn it into reality. And that will truly benefit the SMEs and MMEs. All right, so we have heard from the bank's perspective and pain points, but what about the solution? We have heard about the pain points. Now we'd love to know some solutions from our banks like HSBC and Ayutthaya Bank. We know that you have applied numbers of technology to help improving your competitiveness and improve your solution for your customers. How did you do that? Maybe can we start with Kun Prakop first? Hello, thank you again. And there's nothing very exciting here actually. It is more like part of our duty. It is our duty to do so, to offer solution and product programs. Part of the reason is we want to raise the awareness among ourselves because we know that there will be more loans like this. And in terms of products, we know that we are now developing many products. Today, things are not very clear, in terms of what is what, but we need to still moving on. And for the existing products in our portfolio, for example, we have numbers of green bonds and loans. And that is pretty much easier to see. And there are green bonds and loans available in certain projects, like with PTT, for example. PTT already had some green bonds with us, and they used that money to grow more trees. Yes, reforestation. 2 billion for reforestation to make it even greener, literally. And for the society, we have social bond. And at Ayutthaya Bank, we also have social bond and women bond. We have raised some fund, and we use this fund to help supporting SMEs, especially SME with women leader like you. You can be eligible candidates, but I know that you are already quite rich and you don't need support like that. But the majority of the bond goes to the women entrepreneur. And recently, the Bank of Government Saving Bank just released another bond, like I think 10 billion to support the social causes. And for the link product, for example, like I said earlier, we have the different KPIs. Maybe they don't have a project directly, but they can create their own KPI to offer sustainability linked loans or bonds. So the focus is on the word link, like Thai Union already released the first linked bonds for sustainability. So thank you so much, all regulators, for supporting such a great product. And SEC has just launched a new regulation in May, and we supported the union in July. And it was not easy because people didn't have good understanding. Our understanding was not aligned, so we need to really fine-tune our understanding. This page only shows some of the product growth. It seems like the growth rate is quite high, but when you compare with the size of the market for bond market in Thailand, I can say that it is very small, only a few percentage. But our dream, we want to see more issuance, more green or ESG linked bonds or products, like more. I want to see it as BAU, like business as usual. So every company is aware and everybody is doing this on like business as usual. We want to see more ESG links product. So those are solutions and products. So the awareness must be in your DNA. It's not just you have to do because you have to do. Anything more from HSBC in terms of solution? For us, we are thinking about end-to-end solution because we started from the beginning. We started with the customer's objective or aspiration in terms of ESG.
และในขณะเดียวกันเนี่ยเราก็จะ สอดประสาน
and we should find a way to put the right mix of product and solution to help us achieve the customer's objective. And we can start by talking about how can we support their transition plan or their climate strategies. And there are numbers of products and solutions to help them achieve that target.
ตัวอย่างผลิตภัณฑ์ที่เรามีนะครับ
And for example, we already have numbers of products that has been launched in Thailand. And for example, first, we were the first bank in Thailand who launched what we call green deposit. There were two first customers, Indorama and CPO, who invested in our green deposit. Actually, it's a kind of deposit, but once you have deposited, that deposit will be redeployed only for investing in green project or sustainability aligned project. That's why we call it green deposit. And secondly, we supported the Thailand Agricultural Bank to release sustainable bonds. And the proceeds went to reforestation and the environmental development. And let's go back to Indorama case once again because we had so many deals with them. Last year, we helped them working with 4 or 5 other Thai banks. We helped them to create and structured and raised the first sustainable linked bond for Indorama. The total cap was 10 billion baht, which was quite I think it was the biggest, probably today it is still the biggest sustainable bond in Thai market at the moment. And lately we helped one of the Thai biggest conglomerate where they have some cash around and they want to redeploy this cash into ESG funds. But this particular ESG fund is not Thai fund, it is overseas fund. And I think I could claim that it is possibly the first transaction from Thailand where we used money from Thai investor to invest in overseas ESG fund. And the last one on the chart, let's talk about the medium size and smaller size cases. We want to know how we could support them to begin with. And we just want to share with you some examples. We did what we call supplier financing. We provided financing for larger multinational companies. And there were a lot of issuance, a lot of sellers, I would call. A lot of sellers are medium and smaller suppliers. We want to bring them into our journey as well. And to begin with, it is up to the buyers actually, whether if they have the drive in sustainability or not. And secondly, we want to know whether if the buyers are willing or they truly want to support our M and SMEs. The strangest thing about this structure, but it is very helpful for M and SME, is like, it is a good credit for the buyers actually. And let's call it that it is linked to the buyers ESG's KPI. So sometimes they have KPIs like greenhouse gas emission limit, for example, and for example some index like they have to source materials from the trustworthy or good ESG providers. But this is the KPI on the buyer's side. But on the other hand, for the seller or the issuer, the buyer will subsidize the interest rate for them. The reason why we do this is because the buyers sometimes, they have to take the burden in managing their own KPIs. But on the other hand, if they only manage their own KPIs, they need to go through all of their buyers to make sure that they follow their criteria. If they don't follow my criteria, okay, let's say if you meet the KPI, you will get lower interest rate. If you don't meet the KPI, you will get higher interest rates. So they have already taken all the costs into account. So that's why they have the interest in follow up with their buyers to make sure that they all follow with the sustainability regulations and imperatives. Wow, we could see it very clearly from GC, HSBC, and Ayutthaya Bank. But now let's go back to Bank of Thailand and the Stocks Exchange. We want to know more about the activities, how these activities help you grow the business. We have heard from Thailand Focus meeting from the Ministry of Finance. We believe that our business will grow about 3 to 4%. That's possible for the last quarter. But we know that sustainable finance will be part of the key driving force for our economic growth through the companies and industries. But we want to hear from the BOT and SEC. Maybe can we start with the Deputy Governor of the financial institution for the capital market, and especially for the Bank of Thailand perspective. Maybe Dr. Dang, can you show us some example from the company? What do we do in SET and MAI? Khun Rorondachai, please.
So just now, Grisada and Bakop have shared with you what financial institutions are doing and what products are we issuing. So you can see that now we have a lot of products regarding sustainable finance. However, I think what's most important to be able to achieve sustainable finance is to embed it in the corporate culture to make sure that everyone in the organization is well aware of the importance of sustainable finance. So Bank of Thailand and also other financial institutions like SET, we all have to be on the same page. And that means that starting from the board of directors and management levels and all levels of employees, we need to have the same awareness and head towards the same direction. For the Bank of Thailand, we also have to also align with this direction. So you can see that nowadays we start to talk more about environment and also sustainability, and Bank of Thailand is one of the first organizations that we start to have staff who takes care of this environmental policy full time. So we have a lot of seminars and trainings that engage financial institutions, whether it be board directors from different banks, so that we can make sure that everybody is heading towards the same direction. And what we can see from what many financial institutions are doing is they are trying to assess risk better. They're trying to change their strategies to become more green, and they change that each year. And so we can see that the directions and all the activities the financial institutions are doing have become clearer to achieve this sustainable finance. And another thing that we can see is that many financial institutions, they have stronger commitment on an international level, just like Krungsri also has done. So we have UN principle for sustainable lending and banking. This is Equator principle that many financial institutions now follow. There are actually more than 100 banks all around the world who comply with this policy. And another thing that many of you have mentioned is on the disclosure of information. Right now, we also have applied related financial disclosure or TCFD. And this is something that we can make information disclosure more international. So we turn from the top, we build risk culture in each corporations. And I believe that these are just the start. There are so many more things that we can still do, because each thing that we do is like a building block. So we can lead this to more concrete actions, more executions, and engage more financial institutions. And what we have to do moving on is to partnering up together and make sure that our internal process in financial institutions would work efficiently. And we also need to find a common ground to work together and to improve the tools that we have to assess risk so that we can issue better products to achieve together what we would like to see in the future. We actually call this stress test. And stress tests means that whenever we issue any product out, we'll be able to assess the risk it would have on entrepreneurs, the impact it would have on business owners, and this is something that I think all financial institutions should do. And another word is taxonomy. And so we need to be able to identify clearly on the taxonomy what are the common ground taxonomy that we would all use so that we would know what are the green activities and what are not. So this is something that everybody wants to see in the business world, in financial institution world, and it would be great if we can use the same taxonomy, use the same language, use the same term, so that we can move forward in the same direction better. And also, when we have taxonomy, it would be great in terms of standardization so that we can know which activity actually is green and which is not, and that it would not vary by organization. So it would be great if perhaps we can have some technology or tools to identify this taxonomy and make it commonly accepted. And for the information, I think it's very important that we improve data availability, data consistency, and data comparability. So I think there are three things that we need to do. First, if we have quality data, timely data, we will know the current situation. We will know how green is our business at the moment. And if we know our current situation, we'll be able to change and adapt way better. And we'll be able to draft out the journey to move forward. Now, secondly, if we have quality and timely data, we will be able to gain trust from consumers, from banks, from other institutions, and from entrepreneurs. And that would also help all the stakeholders. So I think that this is something that we really need to think about. It would also help reduce the cost of financing. It would also give trust and ease of mind to the investors. And the disclosure of this information, we need to make sure that it's transparent. So investor, once they invest in something, they need to be sure that the business they invest in is actually green. And third, which I think is the building block in terms of business for GC and other related supply chain, I would say it would be on the environmental score of each business. So whenever the investor invests in something, there would be the score to assess that business, how green it is. And in the future, what we could do is that we could tax the business based on the carbon emission or carbon footprint they give. And another thing that we think we can do, whether it's with the big corporation or small corporation, is on the support of SME. If we can issue them bonds and loans, especially for sustainable link bonds and loans. So I think that the government and other financial institutions, we can support SME more on this, because we know that during the past 2 years, the interest that we collect from the entrepreneurs or from SMEs has been reduced by 2%, because we would like to make sure that the economy would be able to move forward. So as of now, the Bank of Thailand and Ministry of Finance, we also tries to think of how can we push the economy further, and we think of transformation loan. And so we still have the gap of money that we can help SME if they would like to become more sustainable and become more green. So right now we have another 150 million Thai baht for the SME to ask for loans, or we can just call them soft loan that can help them and support them to create innovations and become more green. And I believe that we would need to have more incentives to help with this, and also development of infrastructure, especially for data infrastructure. I think this is very important. This is something that we need to keep on working on to help support the growth of business. Yes, walk the talk, right? So we have to practice active listening to all the stakeholders, and we have to also consider SME into consideration. Now for Litistry, what are some of the recommendations for you? Because for MAI, for MSMEs, would they follow the same standard? Can you give us some example what these businesses are doing? So when we talk about sustainability, I have to say the challenge that we face the most is on the mindset. Because a lot of people think it's more of the cost center, but I really like what you shared. So when we do business, a lot of time we think of everything as cost. Especially when COVID comes, there's disruption. And because of COVID, people start to think of environment as risk management instead of cost, which is a good sign. So when we talk about sustainability, it's not only on the environment, but it is also on the community. And just now, GC has mentioned that some of the issues are about profit, and now the stars are all aligned. So you can see that even UN and for ET, ESG, everybody, all the organizations all over the world are now prioritizing sustainability. And you can see that right now there are more and more trainings on this and more data on this. So back in the old days, sustainability might be something nice to do, but as of right now, it has become something that you must do. So it is a mindset shift. And so if you ask me if this is something that only big corporations are supposed to do, then I say no. Even smaller corporations, SMEs, everyone can take part, everyone can participate in achieving the sustainable finance. And I'll show you these two examples. On the left-hand side is the company that does biopackaging business. It's the packet for the milk for the kids. And they not only do for cow milk, but they also do for mother breast milk. So they try to think how can they increase efficacy of breastfeeding. And so they create this packaging for breastfeed. And another company, they manufacture glue that is environmental friendly. This is also another growth opportunity for everyone. So you can see that whether you are big corporation or smaller corporation, you all have the opportunity to grow. Because at the end of the day, the country's growth is measured by everybody's effort. So I would like you to see this as opportunity. So next slide. So we say big, medium, small corporation, everybody have different pain points. Let me share with you a bit here since I'm from SET. We have a lot of trainings and coaching journey for anyone who is interested So we have since compliance stage, which compliance stage would be for a company that has just IPO. They can start from doing self-assessment, and we will have checklist so that they can see what they have done and what they have not. And once they have completed the standard, then they can improve their standard to become local standard. And then we have other checklists, we have other trainings for them. And we also provide CMDF funding so that they can take sustainability training online, which the curriculum comes from abroad. And I have to say that for the person who is responsible for sustainability in each company, perhaps they consist of 5 to 10 people in a team. But if these people from each company, they can get together, they can share the know-how and experience among each other, and that would be valuable. And for bigger company, we also help them to be able to complete in global level. And we would have the mentor, like GC, we can become mentor and teach at the mentee companies. So this is something that we do. So you see, there is really a huge mindset shift. It's not something that is nice to do anymore. You can say that sustainability has become something that every organization must do, no matter how big or small you are. And right now for SET, we have a lot of resources and trainings to help you. So you can see that it is not nice to do or want to do anymore, but it's something must do. I'm really glad to hear that the Bank of Thailand and SET really support us on this. Now, next up, we would like to hear on the next actions. I would like to ask HSBC, Krungsri, and GC. You can share with us key takeaways on your next actions. For sustainable finance, how can it help you with climate change solution? I would like to hear from the representative from all three organizations.
เรื่องเงินทุนเนี่ยเป็นสิ่ง
Like I said earlier, capital is very important in order to adjust the portfolio and to support your own supply chain. So we could work together to develop new megatrend fitting business. Everything requires investment. Maybe your target can be 10 years or 20 years, 30 years, but without the right amount of capital and without people who understand why you do this new business, you cannot really achieve your goal. So you commit to achieve 20% emission reduction by 2030, and by 2050, we will become net zero under scope 1 and scope 2 target, and 50% for scope 3. It seems like a long time, but maybe I will be retired by then. But by having an organization or partner or a good ecosystem, it can help us develop new generations of people who will drive towards the same direction. So sustainable finance is a very important mechanism, because if we have enough capital and with good competitive interest rate, like Ronaldon said, or finance support like HSBC, whatever we have committed will be possible, and not just for GC, but for the whole supply chain, including GC's stakeholders. And one thing that I can tell you, that for the next 30 or 50 years, we could foresee that the world will change in that direction. Today, we are now building the bridge, and this SF, Sustainable Finance, is that bridge. We will achieve our target, sometimes even farther, sometimes even faster. In the next 30 years, this can be a red ocean. If we don't start today, it will be too late. Everything is up to the funding from the whole ecosystem. And it is also up to your commitment, your company's commitment. I mean the whole company, starting from the top, the senior executive, to everyone in the company, every company's employee, and also everyone in the supply chain. Wow, awesome. Can we go to HSBC and Ayutthaya Bank for the key takeaway, please? For me, from HSBC, we believe that climate change is real, and it is a real risk. I believe that we have seen that many people already suffer from that, and we need to fix it very quickly. In order to fix this problem, we need investment in the transition period. We need to invest in a lots of infrastructures. And there are many organizations that did the estimation, like the Global Commission on Economy and Climate. They have done some estimation. In order to solve the climate change problem based on their milestones, by 2030, for example, based on the current commitment, we will need as many as 90 trillion US dollar, which is huge. So the role for sustainable finance, the role for the bank, the role for investors, our job is to mobilize the fund. So we could invest in infrastructure during the transition period. So the climate change will be fixed. And thank you very much. Next, Mr. Prakop. And for me, let me go back to the word awareness and who want to do it, the willingness, like Dr. Dang said. I want it to be a BAU. I want it to be business as usual. I want you to see it as an opportunity rather than threat. It is more profit than cost. If you can embrace the ESG as part of your business as usual, and you conduct your business based on that, maybe it can be a blue ocean. It can take you to somewhere new. You might be able to find a new source of fund or a new kind of stakeholders. Don't just hold on to what you have been doing so far. You need to always looking for a room to improve. Maybe your business is not green today, but there are certain process and there are certain transition period that you have to go through, like PTTGC, for example. Yes, it is possible, but we need to start today. For example, how much greenhouse gas are you emitting today? How much money do you need in order to reduce it by how much next year? I know that GC has already embraced as part of the corporate journey, and you are doing better each day. We actually congratulate large corporations like you, like PTT or GC or like any other company. You can say that, okay, you can do business as you used to be, but it's not very healthy. And maybe your supplier might disagree. But now, once the big companies already made their move, our SMEs will follow. So today, I would like to thank the Bank of Thailand and the representative for helping us driving this initiative. I have so many stakeholders behind me, all the distributor, and we even have the ESG team in my office. We know that sometimes it is quite slow because we need to work with a lots of people. But thanks to you, we need your tone from the top too to help us drive this initiative. Maybe we can see some data to help us accelerate a bit. And we are trying to roll out programs to support even more SMEs. And there's one recent program from Ayutthaya Bank recently. So a quick advertisement. Let us hear from the message. We have a special loan for smart rooftop for our SME operator. If you want to use the solar rooftop to save some energy costs for your business, you can submit your investment plan. And with this installation, it can help you reduce your electricity fees. And actually we have a lots of customers coming in. This is one of the initiatives that we are looking for. We need more like this because first we want to gain awareness and people are aware that this is the bank's direction. We are willing to support our business customers, and with this program it will be linked with the transformation loan where the Bank of Thailand has already kickstarted. And in reality, I don't want everyone just to follow the same thing, Let's think of it as a BAU. It's something that you should do in the business. Maybe you get some incentives at the beginning in order to help you kickstart the process or to move a little faster, and then you can embrace it as a BAU. But in a long term, it will be much cheaper because everybody, that everybody will follow the same direction. All right, thank you so much. And that is very well covered for today's special session on the sustainable finance and how can we take action and what will be the impact towards the world and the business sectors. And now let me take you to the third part for today. I want to hear from you, what is the gap? How can we bridge the gap? What we are still missing? And it will be a very important session to hear from all of you because that will help us complete the ecosystem for sustainability. But once again, if you have any question or for our YouTube audience from the Standard and GC page, please feel free to submit your comments and question. And alternatively, you can scan the QR code appearing on the screen right now to submit your question to our panel. Now, let me take you to the third part the way forward. I would love to hear your suggestion or your final thoughts from all of our panelists. Starting from GC, I know that you have a very strong target for net zero and carbon neutrality, but we know that you have a lot of reduction targets along the way. How close you are to the target? GC say that net zero is not just the target, but it is everyone's finish line. But now we are moving towards the same direction, but we want to know where we are on the timeline. We have already passed the disclosure phase in the past 10 years. We have collected lots of data like the BOT and SET said, and we happen to be number one in terms of the disclosure from numbers of institutions. And today we are in the stage where we have integrated ESG into our business. For example, we started a few businesses like bioplastic and biofuel, and lately we have turned those plastic bottles that you see today through the U-Turn project to help the community in Rayong that covers more than 120 collection points to collect this bottle and turn it into recycled materials like recycled products or recycled apparels. This is part of the way to integrate this initiative into BAU. This is part of our success, and our success starts from the awareness. This is a pilot case for everyone. So everybody could see that it doesn't have to be big companies only. It can be, yes, big company who started, or maybe people who are well experienced, but we can outreach. We can make it more inclusive. We can reach out to you, our smaller businesses and communities. And like during COVID, we have seen that we deliver the plastic pellet to our companies to turn it into the medical gown and protection gears. And we have produced numbers of that during COVID. And that will lead us to new businesses. It will be upcycling product business. And we can turn it into a business where we switch to renewable energies like solar rooftop. Actually, they are our suppliers, and we want to help them. This is where we find that we need to do more, so we could connect even more dots. And for the upcoming future, what we need to do more at GC is, I have to say that our portfolio is, very big at the moment, and we are releasing about 1,000 tons of CO2 gas. And for business growth, maybe we might release a little more, but our target is to go to net zero. So in terms of the initiative, we want to create a net zero culture for everyone in PTTGC, first of all, and also our GC stakeholders, so we can achieve this together. Everything starts from mindset. It starts from our own way of life. How can you save more energy when you are working at home? Can we switch to upcycle material clothes, for example? Those are some of the available options. And the biggest budget from all of you gentlemen, all the money will be screened and will be selected for the project that can be considered green or low carbon business. So we need to be sure that we do it the right way. And that will be our new work procedure or investment procedure, which is actually we are testing these procedures. From now on, we will not just disclose our data. We will have a separate account. Every single line in our P&L of all sites around the world, we will show P&L where we will show you that the emission will be booked as our cost. And the more we save, the extra money will come to us. That's the double layer accounting P&L. So that's how we can book profit and loss for our companies based on the carbon emission. This way, all the KPIs, the whole board will be moved under the same way. And it's not easy because we have more than 200 entities, but with our determination, and we truly believe in it, we believe that we will do it. That is very clear, ma'am. Now let us switch to a commercial bank. Let's go to HSBC once again. What do you think about the participation in sustainability ecosystem from the finance perspective regarding sustainable finance and this ecosystem? And maybe from the HSBC's point of view or other commercial banks, what do you see today? How can you participate in this ecosystem, or is there any gap that you can help us close? All right. First of all, Mr. Ronadon mentioned about what we want to see, which is the commitment from the financial institutions to become net zero. Let me share with you some guidelines from HSBC and what we can do. And first of all, we have joined with our partners that we call Net Zero Banking Alliance. And for Net Zero Banking Alliance, it consists of more than 100 banks around the world. And I think BAY is also there, right? Ayutthaya Bank is there too. And the main objective for this alliance is to have the commitment to change our policy and procedure for loan and underwriting and also investment in order to achieve the net zero emission by 2050. And for HSBC, we also have our own commitment. You can see it in our public statements from our CEO. So first, to begin with, we want to achieve the net zero within our own operation, which means all the greenhouse gas from our branches operations, it will be net zero by 2030. But at the same time, and we also have another commitment to support our customers to help them transition into net zero business by providing the financing or investment at approximately 700 to 1 trillion USD by 2030. And just earlier last year, towards the end of the year, we came up with a new resolution we call the Resolution of Climate Change. And within that resolution, we set 3 more goals for our business. And the first goal was we set a very clear target that for all activities, for lending and investment activities in certain sectors like oil and gas and utility sectors, we also have the reduction target to help them approach net zero. And with this investment, we also have the scientific-based targets and numbers that can be verified. And we want to make sure that it is in alignment with the Paris Agreement the science target. And second, we also publish our policy. This policy will provide you a guideline how we will fade out from thermal coal or coal-fired financing in OECD countries by 2030. And also 2040 for developing countries. And last one, the report. We will start reporting our progress and our achievement based on our targets. You will see the first version by the end of this year. If you like, I can share with you now. All right, thank you, sir. Can we go to BAY because you already have a lot of experience in sustainable finance. And would you like to add anything? Is there any gap that we need to bridge?
Thank you so much for the question. Actually, I get to hear from another regional forum, and they say that Thailand actually is doing quite good on sustainable finance. However, during the past few years, it seems like our neighboring countries have stepped up that game, and so it's like Thailand is sleeping for a while, and then we wake up, and then we sleep again. So it's funny like that. And sometimes when we talk to customers, they feel like, oh, they want to join us, they want to do it. And after a while, after some factors change, then they don't want to do it anymore. So I think what Thailand needs to do is we need to take more serious actions. For example, even for my team, if I ask them what RM is, perhaps they don't even know. So I think that it is very important that all over our forefront employees, they need to have knowledge, because not everybody has graduated from finance, right? So it's not like everybody have the same amount of knowledge on these terms. And I think collaboration is very important. We need to always keep ourselves up to date to the changes nowadays. Just like HSBC, they also study from so many foreign countries before they enact or implement any policy, right? So the same goes for Krungsri. And so I think going forward, we need to work together. We need to also educate our staff. And on collaboration, you can see that we have sustainability bonds. We are signing MOUs with different organizations. We are working with the Bank of Thailand and also with SET. So I think that we need to discuss more and we need to collaborate more to speed up the processes. You can see that time flies, right? Just a couple of months more, and then we are heading towards 2023 already, and I'm retiring soon. Thank you for that applause. You should be happy. Anyways, I think collaboration is essential, and we need to be more open-minded. We have to learn new things. Thank you so much. We are clear on the way forward for GC, HSBC, and also Krungsri. And Pimel has shared with us that we need to engage ESG into every single process that we do. And mindset and awareness are also things that we cannot ignore at all, because it impacts the way we invest and the way we commit, as well as the policy of collaboration. So we have to be more of a marathon and not of a marathon, not a sprint, right? So you have to keep on working persistently. So next up, what are some of the main transition that you see in terms of the banks? What other dimensions that you think we can improve further? I would like to ask from both the banks and from the business side. Okay, thank you so much. That was an important question. Today, I'm actually really glad to be a part of today's seminar. I think what we really do need is the persistency to work on these projects, which would involve financial institutions and other banks. Because when we say sustainable, it requires collaboration that would impact both the environment and community. We don't want sustainability to be just a trend, but we want it to be more than that. And so we need concrete actions. It's not like when PM 2.5 comes and then we would always measure how much PM 2.5 is in the air, but after a while then we forget about it. We can't keep on doing that. We have to be persistent. Just like for climate change, it is something that happens all the time, right? We don't want to always be like, oh, every October we have to see if it's gonna flood or not. I don't want that to happen. I want us to be proactive. And so actually there are a lot of things that we still need to do. I can see that right now we have a lot of plans, we have a lot of directions, but we don't have enough actions. So that is something that we really need to push further. So on this 29th, we are going to have the declaration at the Bank of Thailand to show our commitment to create sustainable finance. And I have to say that it would only be possible if we all agree to work together and improve our database and also disclose transparent information. Just like how GC has this commitment and have gotten the award for this. And another important part that the Bank of Thailand would like to mention is for us to be able to move forward, we have to think about transition process. The way Thailand moves is probably different from any other developed countries. But even though we are different, we will leave no one behind. And so I would like to ask all entrepreneurs, all business owners, all SMEs to work together. Because when we talk about sustainability, it's not only about sustainable finance, not just about cost reduction, but it's more of driving growth for our country as a whole. Thank you so much for that guideline. I can see the commitment is very important. Now I would like to ask for the perspective from SET side, what are some of the recommendations that you have? Well, first of all, I also have to say I'm very happy that I get to join you. 2 hours passed by real quickly. And when we talk about sustainability, like we say, it's not something nice to do or want to do anymore, but it's more of a must do matter. And when we say must do, it's not just a concept, but we also have to check if the action is actually taken. And so it's something that we all need to pay attention to, and we need to be able to take serious action to together solve the problem. And also we need to help each other to gather data, measurable data, KPI for the projects to become more sustainable. And so I think data is very important because with enough data, up-to-date data, it would create trust. And another thing that I think I see the trends coming would be that when we talk about sustainability, it's not only about investment. For example, nowadays we hear a lot of people talking about climate crisis. And I think in the future, more and more people will talk about human rights. So if we have a look at sustainability or SDG by UN, you see that there are actually 17 pillars. So if we are to create the investment fund, it can come from so many themes, right? It can come from all of these 17 pillars. It can even be gender-based fund or things like that. And so I think these trends are some of the things that we have to follow. There will be more and more variability of funds and finance products. And it would be great if we can always get more trade information and share with businesses. Thank you so much. And last, I'd like to ask GC to share on awareness and also our readiness to move towards our finish line. Well, first of all, for today's event, Circular Living Symposium, I have to say that this shows our commitment that we want to partner up with all of you. So we know that we have COVID-19 situation going on, but still we want to engage everyone physically. And they always say that we will be the average of the 5-6 people that we are friends with. So just like here, you see, we are like-minded people. And all of those who are here watching online or even watching on site, you chose to spend 2 hours listening to this topic, and it shows your commitment in this as well. So I strongly believe that if we all put our hands together, if we all connect the dots together, whether it be big corporations or SMEs, banks, financial institutions, we all will be able to achieve net zero for sure. And I have to say that the zero, it is not a goal, but it's a finish line, and it is our reality right now. I would like to invite all of you to join us in this journey. We don't have to do exactly the same thing because our businesses varies, but we will go hand in hand in our own ways and achieve the same finish line. Thank you so much. That was so powerful. Thank you so much. That was really a meaningful session, and it helps us a lot to understand more on capital market. So as of right now, I would like to allow the floor to ask any questions. You can just raise your hands, or you can use your phone to scan the QR code. And you can join us in sending us the questions. If you're watching online via standard site, our speakers would be happy to answer. Okay, so that's a question asking, for investors, how can they know that if they invest in green funds, those money would be used sustainably? How can they be sure? Anyone would like to take this question?
ผมตอบก่อนแล้วกันนะครับ
ค่ะ
So can I take this one first? So how can we be sure that it will be spent in a sustainable way? Actually, when we do a green bond, there are certain framework overseeing that. First, we will indicate what can we do with the proceeds. But after we have raised the fund, we also need to have some trackers and verifiers in order to create a report to show you how we use the fund and whether if it achieved the objective of the fund. And that goes back to data and tracking and reporting. Would you like to add anything? Yes, on the top of that, before we invest, we need to set the framework first. And in this framework, we also indicate how we are going to use this fund. And for those projects, will they meet the criteria? All right, those are some more details like technical criteria. For example, based on our experience in many transactions that we did, we still need a lot more verifiers and even external parties, because today we are having only external verifiers, but we start seeing Thai verifiers today. We want to measure whether it is green for projects like, for example, renewable energy is easy for solar rooftop. But for some case like winds or solar, it's easier, but sometimes waste to energy, it's a little tricky. It might not be that clear because waste to energy, yes, you use waste to generate the energy. The question is, which standard we are using, maybe Thai standard, maybe overseas standard. So we need to have the right mechanism and the verifier. And the verifier can help us to verify but if our framework and the use of the fund is okay. So people who purchase our bond will be sure that we will invest in those projects if they intended to. And it will be followed with reports. Every once in a while, we will show you how our investment be like, and we also need some trust, but trust comes with data. So that goes back to the point about trust and data, and that will help improving the greenwashing situation. Actually, for me as an investor, I am really feeling good because there are certain framework to oversee that to make sure that it will be spent in the green way. Next question, what do you think about the word carbon credit for Thailand? How possible it is for Thailand, and who will be the regulator and the procedure for the carbon credit trade? Maybe it will be the stocks market. All right. From our study for carbon credit trading market in many countries, we have seen examples in many countries like in EU or even Korea. But it is a very good instrument in issuer to get some cost supported, and people who want to do carbon saving initiative will get some benefits. So this is a very useful instrument, but I have to say that there are many other elements that we still need to put them in place. But we have seen some of the elements like the deputy has already mentioned, which is CBAM. CBAM is one of the EU's measures to collect tax from the companies if they generate a lot of carbon footprint and export those products to EU. And EU is a sizable market for Thailand. Actually, it is number 3 and number 4 biggest markets for Thailand. And at the moment, even though CBAM is limited to just 5 industries, but in the near future, the trend will be in this direction. So for Thailand, we also need to take into account our greenhouse gas emission, and there are certain entities who will help us fill the gap with other pieces of jigsaw, not for us alone. And sir, would you like to add a little more about carbon credit instrument? And like we have already mentioned, maybe please also don't forget about the basic infrastructures. In order to gain trust from all stakeholders, it goes back to the database. We need quality database and we need transparency. We need to have all the disclosure and the definition and up-to-date data as well. Those are the key criteria that we need for the sustainable finance. So thank you so much on behalf of 5 representatives. Sinita Petvirakun, it's a pleasure for me to be the MC, and the past 2 hours was really something very special within just a very limited amount of time. And thank you so much for the question from the floor. We believe that this is a very memorable session and it will help inspiring all of you. You don't have to be big company, but as a person, as a global citizen, we can do something we can make change starting from ourselves. And lastly, please join us in the online survey for today's event. And we gladly hear from all of you, and your comments will be taken to help us develop the next year's circular symposium. And when you exit, we also have some special prizes from PTTGC for everyone who join this session. Together, we can take Thailand to our net zero target, together to net zero. And don't forget that it is not just a target, but it's a final goal for all of us. It's the finish line. Once again, a big round of applause to our experts on the stage. Thank you so much, our panelists, and thank you very much for such a memorable 2 hours. And thank you so much for our audience, both on site and online, on GC and the Standard YouTube channels. Thank you so much for watching, and we will meet you again very soon. Thank you so much and have a good day.